All right, welcome to the latest show for the Comics Multiverse. Today, we once again are talking with independent creator who is currently running a Kickstarter, and which will be up on the Comic Watch website along with this video, details about it. But it is my guest is Martin Pierro. I hope I said that right. Who is the creator publisher of Cosmic Times Comics, and he's no stranger to Kickstarter. And he currently is funding The Good, the Bad, and the Prehistoric issues 1 and 2. So let's bring him in and find out more about him and the project. How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
How bad did I screw up your last name?
Perfect. You nailed it.
All right. I should have asked you before we started this, but whatever. It keeps things interesting.
All right.
So before we start talking about the Kickstarter, tell me a little bit about yourself and about your history with comics and how you got into comics to begin with and all that.
Well, I'll tell you, obviously, I think like most people my age, I started reading comics off the spinner rack at 7-Eleven. I was a big fan of the Micronauts, ROM, and from those books, I became a fan of Fantastic Four, and my love of comics just kind of followed me until, just as a reader, a fan of comics, I would buy them, and my mom would end up throwing them away. That story you always hear. Like, oh, I wish I saw all those Star Wars comics from back then. But so as a casual reader, and then I was walking through what was called the Farmers Market. It was like an open air flea market we had in West Palm Beach, Florida, and I saw a Doctor Who comic. And I was a huge Doctor Who fan. And back then, Doctor Who was only available on PBS. So there was like 6 Doctor Who fans in my entire school. And I saw this Doctor Who comic, but it was $1.25. Now back then, comics were 60 cents. I know $1.25 sounds like a deal now, but for me that was a lot of money. And I was like, I'm going to spend a lot of money on this comic. That's half my allowance. So I went and I got it. It was a guy running a comic shop in this kind of open air flea market. It was indoors, but it was just kind of just open stalls. And he explained to me about collecting comics, about bagging and boarding and protecting your comics. And I got hooked. I was hooked into comics. I guess I was probably about 11 or 12 at that time, and I just started collecting comics like mad. I became an avid collector. Then Secret Wars came out and Crisis came out, and I got pulled further and further in. Now that place was called Metropolis Comics, is what he called it, and I was fascinated about the whole comics world. And so I was 13, maybe 14, and I created my own fanzine. We first called it Metropolis Times, and then the owner of the store was like, hey, there are other comic stores. You might not want to call it that. So we changed it to Cosmic Times, and it was a fanzine I published when I was in middle school. So I guess 12, I guess I was 13 when we started, so 14 when we finished. And I put out a fanzine. I would get the news back then. There's no internet, but the store owners would give me the brochures, the comic shop or the comic publishers, because back then there was like 6 different distributors. So there was these little tidbits of comic news that the store owners would get. They'd give it to me. I'd rework it into articles and stories for my fanzine. It was a news-based fanzine. I ended up interviewing a lot of comic creators like Ken Micciarone. We talked to, I'm drawing a blank on the guy who did Mr. Munster back in the day. I talked to the late great Martin O'Dell, who created the Golden Age Green Lantern, or at least worked on it. Mm-hmm. So I had these cool interviews going on. We had fan art coming in. People were sending in fan art. It actually had a little following for a while. So that's where I got the bug to want to be involved in comics. But as anything, life takes its course. I discovered there's these things called girls, and so comics kind of got pushed to the side for a little bit. I still always followed it. I would dip in and out of comics, but I ended up going to college. I was originally going to go to the Ringling School of Art in Sarasota to study animation, because I fancied myself I was going to be an animator, because the Disney had just opened an animation studio here in Florida at the Disney Hollywood Studio, or MGM Studios at the time. And but I went to the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale, and they showed me all the equipment I could shoot video and create television shows and movies on and create music, and I got hooked into that. So I ended up going to the Art Institute. I studied film and television, or music and television production, and ended up working. I worked in theater. I worked on films. I worked television. I ended up my last gig in the entertainment, that part of the entertainment business, was I was authoring DVDs. So that kind of sets the years that I was doing it. And that place closed up, and I ended up working at a law firm doing IT. Great people, great firm, wonderful place to work, but it's not the most creatively engaging job after spending years working in the entertainment business to then just be sitting there fixing computers. And I went to MegaCon with my friend Shannon, and there was a guy there. I can't remember his name, but he was pitching, hey, if you're a creator, why don't you write a story for us? You can hire an artist and we'll publish it. And I was like, so I pay for the artist, I write the story, and you publish it, and I don't get paid? It's like, yeah, that's the deal. So I'm out on this. So I started thinking, well, if he can do it, I could do it. So I decided then that I was going to become a comic book publisher, just on the side while I was working at the firm. It was a hobby, and I put out my first book at MegaCon in Orlando. It's our big show in the Southeast, MegaCon. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. And
I am. Yeah.
And I put out Arthur: The Legend Continues, the story of King Arthur returning to a post-apocalyptic England. I have it right here. That was in 2008, or 2009. 2009. I started in 2008. So next year is actually my 15th year in the business. And I know before we started recording, we mentioned the Comic Geek Speak guys. I actually met them the next year at MegaCon. They had Peter, Pants, and Brian Deemer came down to MegaCon that year. And that's how I met them, kind of got pulled in with that group. They had already were nice enough to put me on their podcast at one point. And so then through the Comic Geeks guys, I fell into the larger industry. Went to Heroes Con, which as for a comics fan is almost like a religious experience. And I just kind of I decided this is where I want to go. And then the economic scale of it is putting out one comic's fun, it's exciting, and I sold out at MegaCon. I felt so good about myself. I printed 100 copies, and selling 100 copies, I think I was doing $350 at the time. Didn't really cover my expense to going to MegaCon. So it ended up looking like I have to scale up. So I started bringing on other talent and expanded because you have to have more titles if you want to make more money, yada, yada, yada. Then I want to say 2014 got picked up by Diamond, and it just snowballed from there. So that and I really went. Maybe that was too big of a story, but yeah, I got hooked into comics with Doctor Who #1 from Marvel Comics for $1.25, and it just went from there.
No, and that's perfect. And that kind of other stuff I wanted to cover, but yeah. I know that the Comic Geek Speak, that community, I think, that community really fostered a lot of indie creators who were looking to get their work out into the to readers.
Oh yeah, it was nice. Peter reached out to me after that. I think it was after that we met at MegaCon and asked if I wanted to be on, come in and do a little bit for the show and talk about Arthur, and I did. And I'll be honest, I was really watching my web traffic because social media really didn't exist in the form it does now at the time, and my web traffic exploded from that. So I'm eternally. I still talk to Peter every now and then. Mm-hmm. If I haven't seen him at a show since the Denver Comic Con, maybe 6-7 years ago, but I still dip my toe into with the geeks. Obviously the cast in the show has changed over the years. It's not the same guys. Every now and then, Deemer and Rios will show up on there, and of course Adam's on there, Adam Murdo. But yeah, it's the Comic Geeks community, and then their forum at the time. I was really involved with that. And it created a comics community that I feel that we don't really have anymore, especially at the level of independent creators or just general fans that aren't. Maybe it's been the shift of how social media has changed how people interact with comics. But there was just a warm community feeling. I remember it was the Comic Geeks group and then the Uncanny X-Cast group. There was always a kind of a crossover there. And it was so encouraging, where now I think some of that's missing with all the different social medias and the constant barrage of people's opinions and information coming in. Where back then you had that kind of one source. And then from the Comic Geek Speak, like I said, I discovered the Uncanny X Cast, and then some of the other podcasters out there. Like I said, the Comic Geek Speak still going. I still listen to it, but that community just seems to has drifted, in my opinion.
No, I completely agree, and I know that tends to happen over time. But so let's talk about your Kickstarter. Tell us a little bit about the good, the bad, and the prehistoric. Kind of give us an elevator pitch and kind of what the inspiration for that was.
Okay. Well, the elevator pitch is I like when I do Arthur, I'm like, it's King Arthur in a post-apocalyptic England. That's it. For good, the bad, and prehistoric. All I say is dinosaurs and cowboys. Like, oh, and then people get interested in that. So that's such an easy pitch to say dinosaurs and cowboys. Oh, I'll take it. But it actually came about. I'll tell you, Zach Bassett was the first person I ever hired as a more regular employee. We're working with, not even an employee. He's a friend who we'd make comics together. Really, I met him at FX in Orlando in 2009 or 2009. He had just gotten screwed over by another comic creator, and he was just looking for work. And what he said to me was, I said, "What do you want to do in comics?" He goes, "I just want to work." And so I brought him on board. We've done a bunch of projects together, and it was I want to say almost 4 years ago, maybe even longer at this point. I was in my kitchen. I was talking to Zach on the phone. He lives in Texas now. And I was like, "Hey, buddy, what are we going to, I just wrapped up a project. I'm like, well, what are we going to do next? What's another?" And we just started batting ideas around. And then he just said, because we were putting like different, what genres can we mix together? Like, fantasy and crime and this, that, and everything. We had worked on a crime story before that didn't really take off. And he just said, "What about dinosaurs and cowboys?" It's like, well, that sounds amazing. And so we started formulating the idea. I'm 51, and Zach's in his mid 40s, so we're of a certain age where we remember the way Disney was back in the 70s, 80s, and whatnot. And we were big fans of.
I'm there too. So
the original Pete's Dragon. We're big fans of the original Pete's Dragon, just how whimsical and silly it was. And at the same time, Disney's Lone Ranger had come out. And I don't know if you've seen the Lone Ranger. It's a bizarre and strange movie, but Zach and I came across the understanding that the reason it's so bizarre and strange is it has an unreliable narrator, and that Tonto tells this insane story. And did it happen? Did it not happen? That's not really relevant to the story. It's just this insane. So we just came up with the idea of a paleontologist is telling his son a bedtime story. And he tells a story about the time they found these dinosaur bones, and there's a human skeleton cowboy on the back of a T-Rex. And the story just goes from there. And we're also huge fans of, the base story is Treasure Island, but we're huge fans of Disney's Treasure Planet. In our opinion, it's a very underrated Disney film. So we took inspiration from Pete's Dragon, Treasure Planet, Disney's Lone Ranger, and probably some Jurassic Park, put it in the mixer, and come up with a story about Joel. He's a young boy living on the West. His father has died. His mother owns an inn, just like in Treasure Planet or Treasure Island. And he's there with his mother. A con man comes into town, again, like in Pete's Dragon, and he ends up staying at the inn. Meanwhile, our main character, Joel, he's befriended a caveman. In our vision of this, as we say, the Wild West that never was, there's no horses. We really shouldn't call them cowboys because there's no cows. All the beasts of burden, everything are dinosaurs. So they ride on the backs of dinosaurs. Instead of Native Americans or Indians, they have wise cavemen who come out with looking like cavemen with their wisdom. And so a caveman gives Joel this egg on it. The caveman's dying, and he gives this egg to Joel and instructs him to take it to this cave. So that's your impetus for the story. There's this MacGuffin, this egg, this young boy who goes on this journey, this kind of a coming of age story. He befriends this con man, and he and his mother go on this quest to bring this egg to this cave. Meanwhile, the evil gang, they're after the egg because there's something special about this egg. They want to have their hands on it. So we end up with just this story of this mother-son con man going across the desert full of dangerous dinosaurs, being chased by a villainous gang of banditos on the backs of dinosaurs. And our story just goes from there. It's like I said, it's a coming of age story. Everybody advises me, don't say it's all ages. Because they say if you say all ages, that's the kiss of death on Kickstarter these days. So it is all ages, and that anybody, but I say it's all ages that anybody can read it. The I call it the Pixar effect. Like when you see Toy Story, you enjoy it as an adult. Kids, it's not strictly for kids. It's for everybody, and that's why we wrote this book, for everybody. There's something in there for adults. If you know anything about paleontology, you're going to get little hints in there, things like that. Like I co-wrote it with Zach. Zach came up with the idea. We built the story around it. I scripted it, and then this new issue that we're kickstarting right now, Zach did the art for it. So it's a definitely Martin and Zach project. And like I said, we launched it on Kickstarter recently. Hopefully it's going to get funded and we can get that second issue out there. And the goal is to do the third issue, which will complete the story of this 3-issue miniseries.
Kind of taking a step back, as a somebody writing comic books, and like I said, you've done this for a while. How have you grown, and how can you see that you've grown in the way you approach your writing and stuff like that?
Well, what I tell everybody, especially with Kickstarter these days, if your new book isn't better than your previous book, you're doing something wrong. You should always be growing as a writer. I know when I started writing comics, my background was film and television. So actually, if anybody's ever read this book, it is so full of dialogue because I wrote it like a movie. It's very cinematic, but it's chock full of dialogue. Where over the years, I've learned to trim that down. I've learned to trust my artist more. I've enjoyed working with Zach. When Zach and I write together, it's a great give and take. Because again, I come from this cinema background. He was trained at SCAD, so he has this pure comic artist background. I have this whimsical story background. So it's a great blending when we come together and write things. Again, I've learned to trust my art. I think I said this before. Trust my artist more with when I write my scripts now. There, as opposed to being everything described in there, there'll be, I say do it 5 or 6 page panels, whatever works for you. Just make sure this happens. And so I've learned to trust my artist more. I still don't do the Marvel style where you just give them an outline and let the artist go. I just can't release that much control. But I've learned to work more with my artist, and I've learned. I've just become a better storyteller. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly studying on how to become a better writer. And I think I'm not being critical when I say this. Well, I am. The Kickstarter has, unfortunately, it's been a blessing for me, but it also kind of celebrates mediocrity, in my opinion. You'll have writers who are just starting out, and they'll strike well with Kickstarter, and then they don't grow. I see it in the books I back and buy in Kickstarter. There's one creator I follow. I won't throw him under the bus here, but I've noticed he's almost gotten a little lazy with his writing because he knows he's going to hit that goal on Kickstarter. It's almost like he's not trying. So I am seeing that with the younger writers coming up. There isn't this thirst to get better. It's just this thirst to make their next Kickstarter and get their goal. Where that's kind of something whenever I do a panel like on, I always try to stress you should always be getting better. I never, this is something I used to work with a fellow, Juan Navarro, and we would always do this panels at these shows. And his question would be, hey, what's the latest video game? And somebody's always like, I don't know, Underworld 4 or whatever. And Juan's like, I don't know what that is because I spend my time making comics. You spend your time playing video games. I spend my time making comics. That's why I'm getting better and you're not. Like, whoa, Juan, whoa, keep it in check, buddy. But it's a valid point. You should always, in my opinion, if you're a writer, you should always be trying to become a better writer. If you're an artist, same thing with artists. Like you see an artist grow over the years, you should see a writer grow over the years as well. And so, I don't think I'm a great, amazing writer yet. One day I'll be, because I keep trying to learn and become better at my craft. If that makes sense. No,
that makes perfect sense. How long does it take, you just from usually start to finish to get, an issue written?
Oh, for writing. I've sat down and written a script in like 3 days. I have a third issue of a series that I haven't finished yet. I've been working on it for almost 3 months. So it's it's a give and take. If I can stay motivated and focused, or I have a really good idea, I can hammer it out quickly. I'll end up going back and tweaking. Like I said, this one I'm working on, I have the beginning and the ending of the issue. It's just I'm still trying to finesse that middle to make it interesting for the reader. And I'm probably too up in my head with it right now. I should really back away from it, then come back to it. But that's the chore of a writer. Like I say, a script really, the outline takes about a week at most, and then the script itself comes together in about 2 weeks. So I could hammer out a really solid script that I'm proud of in about 3 weeks. But then the production of the comic book,
right,
especially at our, it's all you can get a comic done really fast or really slow. It's pretty much
right.
how much money you got to spend is what it really comes down to.
No, totally get you. So, tell us a little bit about the campaign. What are you offering for rewards? At what levels?
Okay. Well, the campaign is I think it's my 15th Kickstarter campaign.
I think you've created 16.
Oh yeah, one we had to. Yeah, that was. I thought I could do a trade paperback without actually releasing the single issues on the Kickstarter first. I learned my lesson there. The people want those single issues, then they'll get your trade paperback. For this one, I'm trying something different. With the economy the way it is right now, I'm seeing a lot of Kickstarter people, Kickstarter comic creators, who are struggling a little bit. And I was hoping to kind of skirt that by making the campaign very, very much more robust than I normally do, with tiers that start at $4 and go all the way up to $250. Trying to play the angle to whatever I can get. Like if somebody wants to spend $250, it's there for them. This is the second issue of Good, the Bad, and the Prehistoric. So we have all four cover versions of the first issue in the campaign, plus 3 covers for the second issue. And we have the collector's box, which I can reach it here. This has proven to be great. We did well with it in the first campaign. These collector boxes, people love them because it looks great on their shelves. So we're bringing that back for this, so you can get all the covers in the box. Also, for the first time, I'm trying merchandise, T-shirts, water bottles, something else. Oh, baseball caps, because I wanted a baseball cap, so I added that to the campaign. Because I feel that because we have this, Zach designed this amazing logo for the campaign. I think it looks great on merchandise, so I figured why not? Let's try it and see what happens. So this campaign is like a little more robust than I would normally do. Like my last campaign was very streamlined. This one has a lot of features. I tried to make it as easy to understand as possible, because it's just the 2 issues, but then you go into the add-on section. And the one great thing about, I wish I had him upstairs or downstairs. Zach gave me all the original art for the comic. He did the art on paper. Like, what are you doing? Nobody uses paper anymore. It's all digital. He gave me the cover and there's 23 pages of art, or 22 pages of art in the book. And they're all available in the campaign as well. After you pledge, it takes you to the add-on section, which is something they added to Kickstarter, I think, last year. And you can select, do you want page 1, page 2, page 3, or all of them if you want. I hope somebody wants all of them. And you can add original art. The actual art that created the comic book is available in the campaign. I'm trying to encourage people not to sleep on this, especially the cover, because there is a sense that there's a difference between Kickstarter comics and mainstream comics. I'm going to release this through Diamond next year, so this will be a mainstream comic. This is kind of an early chance to jump on it. Like I said, we're a Diamond Comics publisher. I kind of backed off of that last year, but we're going to go. Next year's my 15th year, so we're going to go full steam and put a bunch of books out in the direct market next year, and this is going to be one of them. So that's what I'm trying to encourage people. Get this artwork now, because it's going to go up once the book hits the market. Oh, hopefully.
Right. Well, yeah, definitely. So, anything else that you wanted to mention about, the book, the campaign, that maybe, we haven't talked about already?
I don't know, man. It's I will mention this, that like I was saying before, it's getting hard out there for a Kickstarter creator. There's I don't know if it's just so much competition from the other platforms that have come along, like BackerKit, GoFundMe, and I think Zoop. What is Zoop? I don't even know what that is. But so it's getting difficult. So what I would like to say to everybody who backs Kickstarters, please share or any crowdfunding platform. I'm going to be that guy and just talk about myself. But if you back a book on any crowdfunding platform, please share it to your social media. Let your friends and other people know that you back that book, because it's getting I don't know. I'm sure you know how it is with this channel. Getting seen on social media is getting harder. getting, the YouTube algorithm sometimes works against you. I'm doing TikTok now because I'm trying anything. I'm up there with the kids dancing on TikTok. That's me. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. So getting the word out there is the challenge. So I invite anybody who backs a Kickstarter or wants to support a creator, whether you back their Kickstarter or not, if you want to support a creator, please share their work out on the social media, because social media works by shares and other people sharing it. So if you don't share it, no one's going to see it. So that's my thing. And I ask everybody, check out this campaign. It's really fun. It's a fun book about dinosaurs and cowboys. You can read it. Your grandma can read it. Your kids can read it and still enjoy it. We all know there's a certain section of Kickstarter that leans heavily on what we used to call 90s comics, the big this book doesn't have it. So that's an uphill battle for us. I'm going to tell you that, because there's a lot of people on Kickstarters looking for that. So yeah, so if you're looking for something different that you can share with every member of your family, it's a fun, exciting comic with some amazing artwork by Zach Bassett, who has been in the business as long as I have. And he was actually at the Comic Geek Speak Super Shows as well. Just check out the book, man. That's all I can say is please check it. And check out any independent creator. If somebody's out there hustling, putting out their best work, support it. I know I do.
Definitely. So one other question.
Right.
Are you reading anything, now, comics or anything that you highly recommend or think people should, check out?
Oh my gosh, I'll tell you that. That's part of what I do on the TikTok is I do I call them micro comic reviews, 1 minute comic reviews. I'm loving Void Rivals by Kirkman. It's kind of that Transformers prequel comic they're doing. I think it's great. I think Kirkman's I'm going to get critical here. I think Kirkman's a great storyteller. His dialogue's a little modern for space aliens, but it's a fun comic. The new Transformers #1 was great. But you know what? I've never read Conan before in my life. I've never been a Conan guy outside of the Schwarzenegger movie. I picked up this new Conan series from Titan. It's incredible. It is some of the best comics I've ever read. It's so enjoyable, so much fun. So I'm loving Conan. I'm checking out. I'm trying to really get into DC Comics again. I read Dark Crisis, and that kind of turned me off to the whole DC Comics world in general. I've dipped my toe back in with the Green Lantern book. It's pretty good. The Hal Jordan Green Lantern book, that I've kind of fallen behind on reading it. What else am I reading? Of course, I get Kickstarter comics all the time, so I'm always reading books by, say, Travis Gibb, Roland Mann, Silverline Comics, and Orange Cone Production, and Matt and Steph with Symmetry Creation. So I follow all these creators on Kickstarter, so I get a lot of their books that I read as well. Because you got to support your friends. You got to support people you know.
Well, I know you've been on Travis's show a couple times.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, that's a weird thing. Just on a slight tangent. Back in I guess it was late 90s or maybe early aughts, CrossGen Comics they opened CrossGen Comics.
Yeah.
And it was in Florida. It was in, I think, Clearwater or Lakeland or something. And they brought all of these creators. They said they wanted to do this bullpen. So George Perez, Ron Mars, all these creators moved. Chuck Dixon moved to Florida to be part of CrossGen Comics. So that created this whole comic scene down in Florida. And it's hard to explain to the rest of the country because we're so isolated down here on this peninsula. But there is a huge comic scene in Florida that I don't think the rest of the country sees all that well. And it was really spawned by CrossGen coming here and just dropping some of the best creators in the industry in the state of Florida. And then everybody I just mentioned were Florida creators. Travis Gibb, he's in Melbourne, which is about an hour and a half north of me. Matt Knowles up there as well, and Steph Cannon. Roland Mann, who's from the old Malibu Comics days. He has Silverline Comics. He's up in Ocala. The guys from Creature Entertainment, which used to be Double Impact Comics or High Impact, they're down in Miami. So there's a huge comic scene here in Florida. You can go broke just trying to support all the Florida creators. But so that's I feel blessed with that. The only other place I feel comics as strongly as I do in Florida is, of course, the Comic Geek Speak Super Show. God rest his soul. And I wish Peter, Brian, Pants, bring it back. And Heroes Con. I don't know if you've ever been to Heroes Con in Charlotte.
No.
Oh, that is I've done New York Comic Con and Seattle. Those are great shows, but the most comic book centric show I've ever been to would be Heroes Con in Charlotte. I highly recommend anybody who loves comics, doesn't necessarily want to meet William Shatner or the voice of Pikachu or whatever, should go to Hero. Yeah, if that's not your jam, if comics are your jam, Heroes Con's the place to be.
Yeah, I know Baltimore Comic Con also has that same vibe.
I hear good things about that too. It's all this East Coast stuff.
All right. Well, as we wrap up here, how about you give a quick pitch and where people can find you on social media?
You got it. The pitch for Good to Bad? Good to Bad and the Prehistoric. It's the story of dinosaurs and cowboys. Does it get any better than that? It's got amazing art that evokes the style of classic 1980s Don Bluth Disney animation. They kind of give it this fun, otherworldly style. It's good versus evil. It's a coming-of-age story. I highly recommend it. Obviously, that's on Kickstarter right now. Just search Good, the Bad, the Prehistoric on Kickstarter. You'll find it. There's nothing else like that on there. Or go to cosmictimes.net. The guy who has the .com will not give it up for less than like $10,000. So Cosmic Times, I don't want to be a .net, but I'm a .net. So Cosmic Times, cosmictimes.net, and you'll find the links to all of our social medias. We're pretty much on everything, either as Cosmic Times or Cosmic Times Comics. Interesting anecdote about that real quick. I created Cosmic Times, like I said, back in the 80s. Since then, Cosmic Time has become a real thing. It's what NASA calls, from the Big Bang to now, they call that Cosmic Time. So that's kind of screwed me now with trying to get anything called Cosmic Times. Cosmictimes.net, you'll find all the links there. I'm on the TikToks. Plus, I run a comic convention down here in West Palm called PalmCon, PALMCON.net as well. I just figured keep it in the family. We'll be a .net family. So yeah, that's me. And again, I'm on social media. Just look for Martin Pierro, Pierro. I'm everywhere as well. So,
well, I want to thank you for taking the time to chat, and we'll definitely help you get the word out on Comic Watch. On our every week, every Saturday I put together a crowdfunding corner, and so I surf the Kickstarters and other sites and look for the projects that I think are worth people checking out. I mean, I obviously can't get them all, but as knowing you from Facebook and seeing stuff, I wanted to finally get a chance to talk to you, since it's been years since we probably talked at one of the super shows.
Right. Well, thank you for having me on too. Did I tell you I work in my house all by myself? It's just me and 3 dachshunds staring at me all day. It's good to talk to somebody else about comics. So this has been a blessing for me. I thank you for that. And again, thank you for getting the word out. I love anybody that supports independent creators. So thank you so much.
And next time you have a project, just let me know, and we'll, if you want to come back on and chat about it, we'll chat about it, or, we'll help you get the word out.
100%, man. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, and have a great day.